All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first Sunday Slate NFL video here on the channel for 2024. In today's video, we're going to go through all of the Sunday games with the exception of the Sunday Night Football game and give you my lean on the spread. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props or other things like that I like within the game as well. If you are looking for the Sunday Night Football video, Tassos will be doing a specific video on the channel for that, so stay tuned. But that's how it's going to work throughout the rest of the season. We have a Thursday night video, we'll have the Sunday slate game, then we'll have a Sunday Night Football video specifically, and then a Monday Night Football video specifically as well. So these are going to be all of the Sunday games, again, with the exclusion of Sunday Night Football, but very, very excited to start jumping into football content yet again. Last year we ended up, I believe, let's see if we still have the screenshot here. We ended up just over, I guess, just under 36 units up on the NFL season. And so far at the time of recording this, the only game that is completed is the Thursday Night Football game, Ravens and Chiefs. And we ended up coming out a little bit on top there, like 0.6 units made because Xavier Worthy, shout out to him, puts a touchdown and we had him at plus 190. We also had the under, which won by a half of a point. But nonetheless, guys, we are jumping into the Sunday slate today. Before we do that, I do want to let you know that we have some spots still open in our survivor pool. Yes, you can still enter even though the Thursday night game already commenced. The last time to enter the deadline is the 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. So go ahead and join. We're trying to fill this bad boy up. I think we have like 70 spots left. If we fill it up, the winner is going to go home with nearly $3,000. It's just a $10 entry. Check out the link in the pinned comment if you do want to join the Survivor Pool. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's jump into game number one that we're looking at. We're looking at the Giants taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Right now, Giants sitting as home dogs, plus 1.5. The total sitting at 41. My lean in this one on the spread is going to be towards the Vikings. Now, I'd probably consider them on the money line instead of that 1.5 point, just in case it comes up and bites us. Minus 120 on ESPN on the money line compared to the minus 115 for minus 1.5 on DraftKings. Doesn't seem like that 5 cents is going to bother us all that much. The reason being is the fact that I do think the Giants defensively got a little bit better, and I think that they're going to be able to rush the passer a lot this season, but I don't mind the Vikings run attack. Now, I'm not really talking offensive line, but they lose Dalvin Cook and implant Aaron Jones, and I feel like we're only one season kind of removed of Aaron Jones being one of the better running backs in the league, right? Like, yes, he kind of stunk it up last year, relatively speaking, and all of a sudden, we forget that this dude is very good. He's dynamic. He can catch balls as well, so I think that's going to be a huge part. The Giants really struggling to stop the run here last year, and again, they do obviously make some improvements and whatnot, but last year they were the third worst run defense in the entire league. The Vikings weren't much better offensively, but again, I think Aaron Jones is going to have a decent impact in this spot. Now, I also don't mind taking a peek at the under 41. Two unproven offenses. Daniel Jones still at the helm for the Giants. Now Malik Neighbors being the premier wide receiver there. Is he going to kind of pick up where he left off in college? Is he going to make that big of an impact? I'd rather see that before I bet on it, if that makes sense. So I'm going to lean towards the under because you obviously have some injury woes with now Sam Darnold starting for the Vikings and whatnot. And even if they do rely on the run and do rely on Aaron Jones, I think that's going to chew clock and slow things down a little bit there. So give me the Vikings money line as well as the under. And I do have a player prop that I actually don't mind in this spot either. It's going to be taking a peek at Sam Darnold under 32.5 passing attempts. Kind of correlates to exactly what I just mentioned about this entire spot, right? Giants should still be decent at getting after the quarterback, especially with some of the additions they've made, like Burns, right? And then you throw in the fact of me thinking Aaron Jones is going to have more of a workload than some might think. It's going to lead to Sam Darnold probably throwing the ball anywhere from 27 to 29, 30 times. I don't think he gets to 33. So to recap here, we have the Vikings on the money line, the under, and then that Sam Darnold player prop is definitely something worth considering. By the way, guys, everything we're talking about in the video today is going to be my lean on the game or leans on the games. Keep an eye on the pinned comment for all of my final plays. So what I'm actually betting myself, if you do want to fade me or if you want to ride with me, all of those plays are going to be listed with the odds that I got them at in the pinned comment. So make sure to check that out. All right, next up, we're looking at the Dolphins taking on the Jaguars. Dolphins 3.5-point favorites at home. Total sitting at 49.5. I've seen some other numbers out there, 48.5. So if you are rolling with an over and under, make sure your sportsbook is giving you the best line available. And we'll start with the total. I don't mind taking a peek at the over here. Now, the Dolphins obviously scored a boatload of points last year, but to close out the season, the last 10 games of the year, only hit the over here in 3 of those games. That being said, they have to be excited. They're at home. They have such an explosive offense, whether it's the backfield, whether it's their wide receivers. Like, this is the type of game where Miami says, you know what, let's go out there and score a lot of points, not worry about defense, and outscore the other side. And I don't think Jacksonville is going to be all that, I guess, I don't think they're going to be all that tough to get by. Now, last year, their defense looked okay, right? 17th, kind of middle of the pack in terms of scoring. In terms of the run defense, wasn't all that bad. Their pass defense was terrible, though. And I think that that's going to be the issue when this Dolphins team shows up today. You know, they'll probably be able to pass all over this Jaguars team. So, again, everything we're going off of, you have to look at either last year, last few games, some recent additions, the draft, all that. We don't have 2024 season data to judge right now. So some of these plays, like, we're going to be conservative. Like, this is very, very simple to me. I like the Dolphins in the spot. I like the over, and it's all centered around the idea of the Dolphins being able to pass all over the Jaguars. That's going to speed up the game, more points. It's also going to allow the Dolphins to have a huge advantage in this one. So just like last game where I kind of pick that Aaron Jones nugget and cascaded throughout the game, doing the same thing here with the Dolphins. I like them minus the 3.5 points. Do I wish it was 2.5? Sure. Could you buy points? Because right now, 3.5 is plus 100 on DraftKings. If you wanted to go and get like 2.5 for minus 120-ish, sure, you keep it within a field goal, right? But I also like that over. But I'd go 48.5 right now. Again, 49.5 seems the consensus, but you can get a 48.5 over on Caesars for minus 110 right now, and then minus 115 over on ESPN. No player props really in this one at all, but I expect the Dolphins to be able to pass all over them. So if you want to look at some of those receivers or Tua props, I don't mind that whatsoever. Do I think the running back's going to have that good of a game? Not necessarily. I think it's going to be a pass-heavy offense all year long, as well as in this spot. So give me the Dolphins minus the points, the over, and like I said, if you want to consider some player props, I would at least make sure it's in the pass game if I were you. And real quick, guys, before we do move on with the rest of the slate, I wanted to talk to you about Underdog. Underdog has a nice little free Dak Prescott square on the board for us in today's slate for the Sunday slate. 0.5 passing yards. I think he'll do that. He's got CD under contract now. I think that Dak Prescott passes for at least 1 yard. If you guys do want to check out Underdog Fantasy, that link is going to be in the pinned comment. You can sign up using code GUYBOSTON as well. You're also going to get up to $1,000 in bonus money when depositing today. So make sure to go check it out. All that is enabled by clicking that link in the pinned comment. You're going to get it on the desktop or on the mobile app if you so choose. So go get this Dak Prescott square, as well as up to $1,000 in deposit bonus. Go check that out. That link is in the pinned comment. Shout out to Underdog. I'm going to be throwing out so many Underdog slips this season. Make sure you're there with me to ride or to fade, but you got to have an Underdog account to do so. So go ahead and check it out. That link is in the pinned comment. All right, let's jump back into these games. Now, this isn't exactly the sexiest matchup on the board, but we have the Saints taking on the Panthers here. Saints right now 4-point favorites. The total sitting at 41.5. Starting with the total, I'd probably lean under because if anything, there's a couple unproven things about this Panthers team, right? But last year we did still see a good Saints defense, 8th best in terms of points against. Red zone efficiency, they were a top 10 team. 4th best team in terms of third down conversion rate against last year as well. So I think that that's great. First downs per game they allowed very few of. So this still should be a good enough Saints team and give this Panthers team some trouble. I'm not hating on the Panthers, but again, this is the type of team that I definitely want to see something out of before we go and jump in and start backing them. And 4 points seems like it could be doable for the Saints here in this spot. In fact, I used the Saints in one of my survivor entries in the pool, just kind of fading the Panthers to see if they can pull that out. So this is going to be a defensive game, a slow scoring game. low-scoring game, slow-paced game, in my opinion here. So give me the Saints minus the 4 points. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. I don't think that this matchup at all is going to be something that I'm racing to the window to place, but I don't mind that under 41.5 whatsoever, just because, again, I think that we still have some big question marks for the Panthers side of things offensively, and I believe in that Saints defense. Now, one prop that I see out there that you can get for EV right now, which is expected value, plus 106 over on FanDuel. It's minus 110 or minus 108 elsewhere. Deontay Johnson under 4.5 receptions. I don't mind that if you can snag it for plus money. If it's in the minus 105 to minus 115 range, I'd probably pass on it. Again, it's kind of like an unproven thing, right? Is he going to be good on this team? Is he going to make that big of a difference? Is Bryce Young going to take a step up? I'm not trying to fade or ride with any wide receivers of the Panthers to start the game, but that is an expected value play, plus 106 compared to minus 110 on average. So if you can get it for that price, then go ahead. I kind of give my stamp of approval on that one. But again, overall, don't want to spend too much time in this one. I don't think it's going to be a game that I end up racing to the window to place. All right, Falcons taking on the Steelers. I know we're still waiting on, or he's been cleared. I'm not sure. Kyle Pitts injury news. That's going to be a big factor in this one, because if Kyle Pitts is playing, I actually do like their team. I like the idea of Kirk Cousins being added to that team that has Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, London, that type of thing. And it would make me honestly consider rolling with the Falcons here, who still should have a pretty good defense, and they add Judon too, right? So I don't necessarily mind this. The one concern, and again, we've said it multiple times about other teams, the question mark aspect of the Steelers. Like, they have a brand new team, led by, obviously, Russell Wilson and a new OC and whatnot. So definitely something worth considering if you want to sprinkle on a big plus money play. Could be riding with Russ and the Steelers for plus 160. I think the safer play may be to consider this Falcons team at home. Again, they should have an explosive offense with a dialed-in quarterback. Kirk Cousins thrives in these type of thrives in these types of environments with these types of teams, and he should have a decent defense behind him. Last year, 4th best red zone team, 3rd best third down conversion team, really good against the pass, which again is going to be the thing that I think upgrades the Steelers team with Russell Wilson instead of Kenny Pickett and whatchamacallit last year. I mean, it's like this should be a better passing attack. The Falcons do struggle against the run, and I think they still will struggle against the run. So player props wise, again, if you're looking for some value, maybe Najee, maybe Jalen Warren, something like that, maybe a touchdown score, because if they get it in the, within the 5-yard line and whatnot, 2 runs, and I think that thing's in. So again, I see the angle to get to the Steelers here, but I think this is a much upgraded offense, especially if Kyle Pitts is good to go. I want to make sure of that with Kirk Cousins there, and everyone around him. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. If they're even remotely near what they were last year, I think that this could be a decent team. Now, again, this wasn't a Falcons team that was like one of the best defenses in the league, but some crucial parts of the game, again, 3rd down conversion, red zone against the pass, like they do have some good spots defensively that can give teams trouble. Like, I think they were a really good tackle for a loss team as well, which if the Steelers offense isn't any better, they're going to trip over themselves trying to move it up and down the field. So give me the Falcons in this spot, but like I already mentioned, I see an angle to go with the Steelers because I do think, you're getting outside of a field goal number if you go with the spread, right? Or even on the money line for plus 160. I can't really knock it, so I don't necessarily mind it if you are in the Steelers, but I am on the Falcons. In terms of a total here, it's kind of a tough one. I'm not loving the idea of even like me saying like how I break that down, right? It's like I think the Falcons defensively can give the Steelers some trouble. I haven't really mentioned that the Steelers can probably still give this team trouble because it's a bunch of guys that, you get physical with them. Kyle Pitts being a beast, Bijan being a beast, but even Kirk, if they get to him a lot, or London, they kind of bang up, could be kind of a difficult spot for them to, keep their offensive flow going. So I'm going to lean towards the under. You can get it at 42.5 on DraftKings right now, but I don't think this is going to be the most fluid game. I think this could be like a game in which the Falcons win 21 to 17 type of thing, right in that range of both, I guess, the total underneath that total, but also that spread minus 3.5. But definitely keep an eye on the pinned comment here. I do have some leans that I'm liking, but I want to make sure Kyle Pitts is good to go. All right, next one up here, it's my hometown New England Patriots here. Now, this spread has been all over the place. I've seen 8.5, 7.5 now, total sitting at 41. Tough one to predict here because it depends on how big you are on the Bengals, and I do think the Bengals are going to be good this year with the exception that they stay healthy. So, unfortunately, I'm going to end up fading the hometown team here, especially if we can get it at 7.5. That could even be a final play, but I might buy a point to 6.5, pay some juice for it. But overall, I do think the Bengals should be pretty good to go. I know they go and lose Mixon, but that's all right in my opinion if you're playing the Patriots, who even knows what this offense is going to be. Now, the defense of the Patriots, I still think is going to be good. I think they have some big time playmakers out there, even with the loss of Judon. Some of the younger guys should be able to step up. So I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a barn burning type of a game, but honestly, kind of what I just mentioned too, a 21 to maybe like a 21 to 14 type of a spot, or 21-17. It kind of goes against my spread lean there, but I don't think the Patriots are going to be as bad offensively as they were last year, but I think they could be just as good defensively, right? So if they just get a little bit better offensively, then they should be able to put up 14-17 a game. I know that was something that they struggled with last year, averaging just 13.9 points. But overall, like this Bengals defense, though, some upgrades made. I don't think they're a stellar defense. Like the Patriots shouldn't be shaking in their boots going up against this Bengals team because of their defense. It probably should be because it's a healthy Joe Burrow, an upgraded offensive line, and that type of thing, right? Like that should be what the Patriots are afraid of, the Bengals offense, not the defense. But this Patriots offense still should struggle, and I think that they have a good defense. So kind of why I'm leaning towards an under 41 here. But yeah, I think the Bengals should be head and shoulders above this team, and if Joe Burrow stays healthy, I think the Bengals have a very good year. They were like 9-8 last year, something like that. They didn't when they lose Joe Burrow week 10 or like whatever it was, like they played nearly half a season without him, right? Still had an above 500 record. So if he stays healthy, if they protect him, which I think they may be able to do, I don't necessarily mind that. Now the Patriots may be able to kind of dominate the run game, especially with the Bengals' current situation, both offensively and defensively. But if that's the case, that's just going to contribute more to an under, right? And then I don't think that they have the passing firepower to keep up with the Bengals. So Bengals minus the 7.5, but I don't think it's the biggest of scoring games here. In fact, as I talk about it and as you hear me talk, probably starts to talk myself more into the under than I am on the Bengals minus the point. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. Definitely something there. I'll be watching the game as they are my favorite NFL team. So we got to get something going on that one. I'm moving on to the Bills taking on the Cardinals. We're going to start with the player prop here because I do have a player prop that I'm really liking that probably is going to be a final player. It's going to be James Conner over 12.5 rushing attempts. Now, I understand sort of the logic behind this one in terms of it being a low number and whatnot, but this should be a guy that they give a lot of touches to. Now, obviously, in terms of their team this year, they may be looking to pass more and that type of thing, especially with Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. I get all that, but if things don't really go according to plan right off the bat, they might just revert right back to what they did last year, which is in many games, just absolutely feeding James Conner. Last year, he averaged, he hit the over in just all but 5 games, and he averaged sometimes in like the last 5 games, right? The dude averaged 20.8 carries per game. So I don't see a reason why they don't go back to that if things don't go according to plan. This is a really, really good pass defense for Buffalo as well. Middle of the pack rush defense. I'm not trying to say that they're not a good rush defense, but if they are a great pass defense, the way you're going to want to get to them is potentially handing the ball off and seeing if James Conner can workhorse his way through. So I do like James Conner over 12.5 rush attempts. Again, that's just carries essentially. I like that spot. In terms of the spread and the total here, I'm not ready to jump all over the Cardinals. Yes, they have some young, really talented guys, and if you look at it from that perspective, they do look like they could compete in this game, but I still think the Bills are very, very good, and that shouldn't be all that shocking. I'm going to lean towards the Bills minus the 6 points. Now, if this was sitting at, 7.5, 8.5, that type of thing, I might end up considering taking a peek at the Cardinals because they do establish the run. They may be able to keep this game close, but this being within a touchdown, it's kind of all I needed to see. So I'm going to lean towards the Bills. I don't have the biggest of feels for the total in this one, so I think I'm going to kind of fixate on that run game idea and lean towards the under, just due to the fact that if the Cardinals do kind of pound the rock, this clock's going to run. I think that the Bills last year, like after they switched offensive coordinators, were giving Cook the ball more than any other running back in the league. So he's another guy that I think that could be, a huge sleeper. He's probably an anytime touchdown scorer week to week if you can get good odds. So I think this turns into a run game. I like the under. I like James Conner's over in attempts, and honestly, something James Cook related could be on the horizon as well. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. There's definitely some plays to come. Like I think James Cook's line for plus money is 14.5. Don't mind that one, you know what I mean? So keep an eye on the pinned comment. We could throw out some plays in this game for sure. probably not a side. It'd either be a total or those player props. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. All right, next up we have an interesting one, and I don't think I've taken many underdogs yet, have I? So okay, that's something to note here. But we got the Colts taking the Texans on, and I mentioned that about the underdogs because this is a spot in which I like the Colts, and I may even sprinkle on the Colts outright. That spread in total is wrong. The spread is actually plus 2.5 Colts, and the total is 49. So let's fix that. All right, that is better. That is the correct spread and total. But again, I kind of like the Colts in this one. The 2.5, you might as well, in my opinion, just roll with the money line because it's kind of inside the field goal range there. But I think they're going to have a good offense this year. They're my sleeper team to make the playoffs. We talked about it on episode 1, week 0, so the futures episode we did of H to H. But I don't think that Houston's going to be as good as they were last year. And I know people are going to come storming down being like, you're hating on blah, blah. I just think that they could regress a little bit. CJ Stroud is phenomenal. Obviously, they have Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Mixon. Like, they could be really, really good. I'm not saying that they're going to be terrible. I just think that they could sort of regress a little bit, and catching them on the road week 1 could be the way to do it. Indianapolis, I like the fact that, they still have a decent defense, right? And their offense should be pretty good as well. Richardson, if he stays healthy, I think that gives him obviously a better chance here too. So, yeah, I'm actually going to lean towards the Colts here on the money line, though. Not necessarily that spread. I don't think the 2.5 does anything. I don't think the points are worth anything in this game. It's either going to be clearly that the Colts can win the game, or I think the Texans go in there and just, beat them by more than 3 points. You know what I mean? So if you are on the Texans, I lay the points because I don't think the points are going to matter in this one. But for the Colts, getting those 2.5, I don't think that they're all that relevant. Now, the total here sitting at 48.5 tells me that it is going to be somewhat of a high-scoring game, which helps me feel a little bit more confident about this Colts offense, because I think the defense, like I mentioned, should be pretty good and remain pretty good overall, right? Last year, they allowed a lot of points, but they did some good things against the run, the pass. Like, they were kind of middle of the pack. So when I say good, I mean good. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying overall. But they got after the quarterback, 5th most sacks. This was a Texans team that allowed plenty of sacks last year. Now, obviously, Stroud's going to kind of create space and maybe eliminate some of those. But if the Colts defense does their job at all and their offense contributes to this game, I think that we see a nice little spot for them to win. And then again, the total sitting at 48.5 or 49 tells me that I do think points are going to be involved in this one, but I'm going to lean towards the under. As crazy as that is to sound, with 2 good offenses, right? If the Texans don't go out there and do a shootout and all that, like, I think it benefits the Colts even more, right? So give me them on the money line as well as a slight lean towards the under, but I could see someone going over. In fact, I leaned that way myself midway through the research, you know what I mean? But then as the more and more I look into it, the more and more I like the idea of both defenses. I already mentioned the Colts. I didn't mention Texans. Texans have a pretty good defense too. So if this is going to be at all defensive, I think it's going to help the Colts because you're not going to have running up and down the field of the Texans. But because the total is sitting at 49, tells me that the odds makers believe in both offenses, which helps my point against the Colts. At least I believe. All right, Titans taking on the Bears. I think a lot of people are excited to see what this Bears team has in store. Obviously, they get Keenan Allen. They have DJ Moore still there. Caleb Williams, no kidding, right? Rome Odunze. Like, this is going to be a fun team to watch. That being said, I'll sound the psycho alert alarm. I think I might be fading them in week number 1. I think this is a low-scoring game, 44.5 right now. I don't think the Titans are I think the Titans are going to be up for the challenge of stopping this young quarterback, and the Titans also have a young quarterback of their own, so I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I'll take the 3.5 points. It's kind of the contrarian pick in me, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just fading all of the excitement. I think 94% of the bets right now are on Chicago money line. But there's a lot of money on the plus 3.5. 64% of the money on plus 3.5 in terms of the spread. So there's a lot of people out there that are betting a lot in this game that kind of see what I'm seeing. Now, where I do differ is a lot of people are thinking this over's happening. Like I mentioned, I think it's going to be a slow-scoring game, especially if low-scoring game. I keep saying slow-scoring. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, especially if the Titans are kind of contributing to the pace. They were not a very fast team last year. In terms of points per game, I think they averaged 18, which is good enough for 4th worst in the entire league. But this defense for the Bears, though they should be a little bit better, I don't think is going to matter. Like, because you could make the argument, well, the Bears were a bad defense last year. The Titans were so bad and sluggish and slow offensively that I don't necessarily mind the idea of the Bears, even if they were to be, a bad defense. I don't think the Titans go out there and light up fireworks. I think it's a close, low-scoring game that, could result in that 3.5 being pretty crucial. Like 17-14 maximum, in my opinion. Now, I know I'm going to get some flack because it's essentially fading this brand new offense that the Bears have to offer, but to me, I'm just not fully on board with the hype. Now, I think Caleb Williams is filthy. I'm not saying that, but let's see these guys play outside of a preseason game before we go and crown them, an amazing team and a team that should be laying 4 points to start the season. Let's just see it. I know the Titans aren't all that great, but let's just see it before we do, again, kind of crown them victors. All right, next game up here, we're looking at the Chargers taking on the Raiders. Chargers right now 3-point favorites, the total down at 40. I feel like I must be missing something here because I like the Chargers in this spot. I think that they're going to be better than last year. And this Raiders team, like, who's going to be throwing the ball, right? Sure, you have Gardner Minshew, you have Aiden. Like, I get it, but, like, nothing proven, right? So definitely a quarterback advantage for the Titans over here. Skill position wise, maybe not, but I think that they're the better team, and laying only 3 points at home to start the year against some that you could consider a rival as well. I like the home team. Now, that total sitting at 40 worries me a little bit because this should be a spot in which the Chargers kind of light it up based on their MO over the last few years, right? Being a high-scoring team. But that necessarily wasn't the case last year, right? Like, they didn't score all that much. I think they averaged just over 20 points per game. So maybe I'm overhyping this offense, but I immediately want to lean towards the over because I think that correlates more with the Chargers win. But seeing that total at 40 does give a little credence to anyone out there that is looking at the Raiders and whatnot. Now, I think the Raiders will probably win this game if they get it to within 3, so you might want to just sprinkle on the plus 142 if you are on the Raiders, but to me, this is the Chargers game. I'm going to lean towards the over as well, but I feel like I'm missing something here just due to the fact that that total is down there. I would have pegged this more in like the 40, 44, 46 and a half range, which is like a score outside of that, but give me the Chargers as well as the over. All right, Seahawks taking on the Broncos here. Seahawks 6-point favorites in this one, and a lot of the money is on them as well. The total sitting at 42. This is probably neither one of these numbers I'm all that in love with, honestly. So this is probably a spot in which maybe I do like a 3-point teaser or something, maybe even more, get this down to Seattle minus 2.5 or something, and then that total down to like 38, that type of thing, because overall, talk about question marks. We don't really know what this Broncos team is going to do. And then even Seattle, like, are they going to be what they were last year, or were they going to be what to close out the season last year? Like, a lot of question marks in this spot. You have Bo Nix starting for Denver, and I see the hype, you know what I mean? Like, if there's any college guy that has enough experience to go in and jump right into the NFL, it's probably him because he played a million years in college. But to me, I don't know if I'm fully on board. He looked good in the preseason. I understand it, but this spread is at 6 for a reason. I don't think the books are that high on Denver. But to me, I'm not that high on Seattle to lay 6 points. So I will end up, if I bet this one, make it a same game parlay, some sort of a teaser where we get a way better number for the Seahawks, and it also impacts the total as well, because I just cannot get behind, even though I kind of want to fade Knicks here, I don't necessarily see the benefit of kind of rolling the dice with Seattle minus 6. Like, they can play a fine game and win this one by 4, so not exactly going to be the move there. One spot that I will consider, now, Seattle didn't have many tackles against last year, but Alex Singleton, shout out to that last name, also my cousin's name. He has over 9.5 tackles plus assists in 8 of his last 10 games here. He did it in 76% of games last season, and on the road last year did it in 88% of the games. All but one game last season, he did not have 9.5 tackles plus assists. So you gotta love that spot. It's definitely a spot in which I am leaning today. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. That may be the move. Maybe it's like his tackles with Seattle money line, something weird. I gotta figure out how to massage these numbers to make them worth it. All right, next one up, we got the Bucks taking on Washington. If you made it this far in the video, guys, comment favorite down below, because we have leaned towards a lot of favorites in today's video, and I know that's going to be some of the comments, right? Some people that don't even make it to this point, you'll be like, oh, you took all favorites. We do have a few underdogs in there and one more underdog remaining, but we're putting each game in a vacuum, you know what I mean? I'm not sitting here being like, well, I took one favorite last game, it's time to go towards an underdog. I know that not all favorites are going to win week 1, but we're putting each game in a vacuum. But comment favorite if you made it this far into the video. All right, we got the Bucks taking on the Commanders. Right now, Bucks sitting at 3-point favorites, and yet again, I think I'm going to fade a new quarterback here until I see it. I think that this Bucks offense could be a little bit better than people are giving them credit for. Hopefully the defense kind of sticks around overall, because this is a defense that does have really good players on there. I know they lose a couple guys, but last year 6th best in terms of scoring against, 3rd best red zone team. Against the rush, they were 5th best, kind of middle of the pack when it came to passing. They're lower in the pack, but either way, they get to the quarterback, tied for 7th in sacks, tied for 12th in turnovers. Like, I don't know if this is the best opening game for Jaden Daniels to kind of go up against this defense. So I'm going to lean towards the Bucks here. In terms of the total, I don't want to say strong under. This is a very slight lean towards the under, because I know I just talked about the Bucks defense, but I kind of believe in their offense this year. I think that Godwin could bounce back. I like Rashad White. Is he going to keep the job? Not necessarily. I think that the backup there, I don't know, not lose the job, but like, is Rashad White going to get as many carries as he did last year? Maybe not. But then you have Mike Evans, Godwin, and Baker. Like, these guys clicked at one point last year and looked pretty damn good. So strong chance I roll with the Bucks here, -3 in week number 1. But like I said, I'm going to slight lean towards the under, but that Bucks offense kind of makes me, let's keep that one on the shelf, if that makes sense. I don't necessarily want to fade that offense. I'd rather back the team overall. All right, and like I said, we do have one last underdog kind of coming in here, and I do like Dallas in game number 1. Now, I leaned this way in H to H, but it was for the first quarter for some serious plus money. I don't know what you can get at now. Could probably check very quickly, but I like Dallas to start this game hot more than anything. Right now, first quarter spread -1 is +175. Their money line is +120 for their first quarter. That's what I would go towards more so than taking a peek at the full game here, because I do think the grit and grind of the Browns could kind of, at the end of the day, come through and wear down this Dallas team that's probably going to start hot and start excited and all that type of stuff. But overall, I still don't mind the idea of Dallas for the full game. Even though this is a decent, Browns defense, right? This still should be a good Dallas team to combat that. They were number 1 in yards per play last year against the Browns, but number 6 offensively were the Cowboys, because they have the big playability and everything like that. Now, what are they going to do at running back? Zeke, Dowdle, like not really sure. I don't think they're gonna have the biggest run presence this year unless Dowdle steps up or Zeke has a resurgence from what he was. But overall, that's not the type of team that I want to see go up against this Browns passing defense. Now, they are a good passing defense. They should be able to get to the quarterback and whatnot, but the receiving core and Dak combined, I think, can kind of give them trouble. So though I'm still giving credit to the Browns defense, and like I even said on H and Out, wouldn't surprise me if the Browns win this game, but this should be more of a pick 'em, not necessarily giving the Cowboys nearly a field goal in their pocket. So I'm going to lean towards them plus the points. Maybe we can buy a point and get it to 3.5, that type of thing. Now, the total's sitting at 41.5. I think if the Cowboys win this game, it's most likely an over. Even though the Cowboys have a good defense too, they are kind of like they're a flashy defense, right? I think that this is going to be an over if the Cowboys win, but an under if you are on the Browns. I think that those are the way that those two correlate. So yeah, it's always tough to pay like the Cowboys premium too, because like who knows what the spread would be. It's kind of like the Lakers effect. If you guys didn't know, the Lakers, the Cowboys, some of these premier teams are always the most bet teams. So the odds and lines are usually a little different. Like this could be Cowboys plus 3.5, plus 4.5, but because everyone bets the Cowboys, it's going to have that sort of tax that you pay, just based on how the book set it up. So it is kind of tough to bet on the Cowboys, especially as an underdog, when you could be getting more points, but who knows if that's even the case here. But I'll lean towards the Cowboys as well as the over. But again, I think if you are on the Browns, which makes sense, I see an argument both ways, I would consider leaning towards the under. I think that is how this team is going to win this game. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Obviously, as we progress throughout the season, we'll have more and more data to go off of. So this is a lot of last year, or they drafted this guy, or signed this guy, or lost this guy. That's how you got to start the NFL season. So make sure you guys are conservative to start the year. We say that in the MLB, especially going into like the All-Star break of games. We don't have that in NFL, but All-Star game then coming out, like give yourself some time to kind of acclimate to the speed. Same thing with the NFL. We only had 4 plays Thursday Night Football. We have 3 plays, good for 2.25 units as of right now for the Eagles and Packers game at the time of recording, so you don't need to go balls to the wall right away. You know what I mean? But I'll leave you guys with that. I'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.